Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for taking time to join today. I'm here with Morris and Crystal Ellington, and we're taking some time to shoot some longer form conversations of kind of the story behind the story. You guys were so kind to come in, brave to bring your kids into a video, and you just never know, right? I mean, that's like bringing a bobcat onto the Tonight Show. Right. You're like, what's it gonna do? Right. Is it gonna bite somebody? I have no idea what's gonna. But you guys brought your kids, and they were great. They were great. But it's a short video, right? 3 minutes, and we want to take some time to talk about the people behind the story, to talk more about it. So I'm gonna hit you guys with some questions, and before though, okay, how long you guys been married?
You want to answer?
Oh, I know.
Well, I'm so glad
he
you're
knows to the minute.
12 years, 3 months, and nah, it has been 12 years, blissful years.
Yes.
See that, Pastor?
I do.
12 years. We have 2 kids, Reagan and Brendan Ellington. Crystal, this is behind the scenes kind of story. Look at her.
Just tell the truth, man. Just tell the truth.
So when we got married, this is why premarital counseling is very key and good. But when we got married,
where we going with this?
we got back from our honeymoon, and it was time to go down to fill out all the documents that she needed. And
well, they took a name change?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
That's exactly where I'm going.
Yep.
So she came to the car like, oh, by the way, I'm hyphenating my name. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Maybe we should have talked about that. No. But it was all good, but it was just like, all right, what can I do now if I had any objections to it? So
it's official. They notarized it.
Hey, so and it was funny because I was in the car dropping something off to her before she can go and do this, and she was like, she telling me this. I'm like, all right, I have no objection. So even if I did, I mean, how would that look now? Yeah. First fight, first. Yeah, just got back off the honeymoon. But anyways,
all right. So who made the first move?
Oh, he did. Most definitely.
Tell the story. What happened?
Man, I think there's two, a little bit distinctive, but
let's hash it out here.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's do it. We're in the Lord's house, all right? So I went to Ball State University, as I say, Muncie, Indiana. But don't get caught in the summer times because there's nothing to do. But sophomore year, I got injured. I was a track and field athlete and did very well my first 2 years. And during practice, got hurt. And that really basically sidelined me the remainder of my collegiate career. But when I went home, I ended up having surgery, went home, and one of the girls that I competed against in high school, talking about the baton, handing off the baton, whatever, but we competed against each other in high school. She went to Akron University, and she was on the track team there.
So were you guys friends or adversaries?
No, we were friends. Okay. We were friends,
okay,
yes. But when it came onto the track, it was a different thing. You put that focus in.
Of course.
But anyway, so we have the track guide, media guide, and my picture was in there. And I guess she must have shown him, or he was flipping through the pages, and he stopped at mine, and he was like, "Who's this pretty young thing?"
That's definitely her perspective.
No, that's what you think.
Is that a quote? Is that a direct quote, or is that a summary? Is that a?
That's my summary.
Okay, I got you.
He saw my picture. I don't know what conversation they had. She contacted me, and she said, "I have someone who seen you in the magazine," and she put him on the phone. He tried to holler and all, but at the time, I was dating someone. So I was like, we're going to have to cut the line there. I'm glad that you like the picture. You itching so bad.
So this is before the social media, before sliding the DMs. You had to work for it.
Exactly.
Faster.
Yeah,
he tried.
Yeah, you had to send a letter in the mail.
He tried. But from there, I was dating for those 4 years, but we kept in contact as friends. And after I graduated, he was very persistent.
We were friends. Dude, we were friends.
Man, hey, listen.
She was dating somebody.
Shoot your shot. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna go down, you're not gonna go down not swinging, right?
He was still very persistent.
100%.
That's a fighter.
That's a real man.
I guess that's it. Yes. So I guess he moved back to Orlando after he graduated, And then he came back to Cleveland because a couple of his friends had gone into the league.
Played for the Browns.
Yeah, the Brownies. Yes.
Let's go.
And so my family is from Cleveland, and I took a trip to see my family, and he was like, I'm going to be in Cleveland too. So that was our first time actually seeing each other ever. So I don't know, keeping back and forth contact for what, 3 years?
No, it was 2 years.
2 years?
About,
Yeah.
about 2 years.
A little over 2 years and some change.
I'm older than her, if you couldn't tell.
And
I mean, you guys both look good. You guys both. How much older?
What, 2 years?
Okay, all right.
and
Not too much.
he came over to my grandmother's house. I was very nervous because I didn't know what it looked like. I was like, Lord, when I open up this door,
Were you going off the word of your friend? I mean, your friend had to get a scouting report.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna have to take this on the track.
I think this was Facebook had just came out, so you had a couple of pictures.
But,
She's like, at least I can run.
Yes. And so he showed up at my grandparents' doorstep, and when I opened up the door, I literally started from the feet because I was like, if I look straight ahead, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I started from the feet. And him being Florida, I don't know how many people do this. He had thick socks on and sandals, and I was like, oh God. And I just made my way.
There were Nike flip-flops. Shout out to Nike if they want to sponsor me. Sponsor us.
And I looked at his face. I was like, oh, well. I was like, okay, come on in. And so then from there, but yes, to make point, by that time, I was not dating. But yes, that's my story.
All right, so you played Morris football at Akron, right?
Yes.
What position?
Play receiver.
Okay, so what did you run in track?
I was recruited for the 400.
Okay.
There, I ran the 4, the 2, and the 4x4.
All right, so have you guys ever raced?
I don't think we officially really right. We can't do it now.
Like never
I
in your
can.
prime?
No, you can't.
In your prime,
can't
you
go
guys
as
never
fast.
you guys never raced?
No.
Like who do you think would have won?
I would have won, hands
Well,
down.
what about 400?
I would have given him a good.
I would have won.
A 400?
I would have given
Yep.
him a good run.
Did
for
you
his
run?
money.
Did you ever run the 400?
I did. I actually ran 400 in high school. You can look me up.
What'd
you
you
run?
Morris Ellington.
What'd you run?
Evans High School, Menard Evans High School,
my
Orlando,
gosh.
Florida.
Don't give him a
Just so you
mic.
know. State every year.
All right, what about the 200?
I did the 200. I think it was we did a 4. I want to say 4
4x2?
4x2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm old, man. This is back in the days, way back in the days. But it was all high school. I did run a little bit in college too for.
So
year.
you think you would have won, or you think he would have won?
I think he would have gotten just a hair in front. I would have
Would
given
have
him a
nipped
run
you? Would have
for.
nipped you on the 400?
I think I have
Oh, I
more
would've.
endurance. I think I got the
It's a tough
endurance.
race.
It is.
It
And they
is.
were starting to push me to the 8, but I was like, nah.
That's yeah.
Let's stay what you recruited me for.
So honestly, I talked about how I ran the 1, the 2, and I never ran the 4. The 2, I mean, you watch somebody run for whatever it ends up being 22 seconds, 21 seconds. It's like, oh, that's really short, dude. I ran the 200. I was gassed.
Oh yeah.
I was gassed.
That's
It's
everything.
definitely strategic.
It's way longer than you think.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you should be continuing to accelerate.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I'm slowing down here.
That's it.
That's no joke, but that's really, really cool, man. I'm really glad you guys are part of this church, and I appreciate you guys way you serve in music. Mo is a drummer, and Crystal's a singer, and I appreciate you guys just bringing your gifts and yourselves. Honestly, I mean that's we think about generosity. You hear people use that word. Usually, they're talking about giving stuff. But I think of true generosity as giving self. You guys are giving of yourselves. You're giving your time. You're sharing your gifts, and then you just beyond what you just do in terms of what happens on a stage, whether it's with the choir, whether it's other relationships in the church. You guys are life-giving people, and I just want to thank you for being a part of this. And you guys talked in the video a little bit about legacy. You talked about your grandfather and your relationship with him. Would you talk about that? Because we've been talking about the cloud of witnesses, right? So you look at Abraham and Sarah and all these biblical characters, and of course we can read about those stories and learn so much. But that's kind of far removed, but we have a cloud of witnesses that, I had a conversation with Roger Walker, who was, doing work here on this property when I was born. We have these people in our lives who have kind of set the table for us, we kind of stand on their shoulders, right? Would you talk about some of those people, maybe more about your grandfather or, people that you look to who, obviously you're your own person, but you've drawn strength and you've learned, and in many ways your life honors them?
Yeah, my grandfather was definitely one of those that was a stronghold for me. And even as Morris and I started dating, I think he took to him as a mentor. My grandfather, his father, when he moved here to Ohio, started an AME church in Maple Heights, Ohio. And that's where the ground root started. And just sitting and talking to him, he was just so full of wisdom. And he would repeat these stories over and over to where you could say them verbatim, but you would get something different out of it. And my grandfather was just one that if he was living today, you would want to just sit and just hear him speak for hours. Is just the way he talked too, and it was so pure and at heart, and he always brought you back to the Lord in every conversation. There was no conversation without him talking about the Lord.
What are some things, maybe either things that he said, or sometimes the greatest lessons are stuff someone either maybe said or maybe they didn't say, it was just their life, but you would say either he said or did that you have carried on. You're like, wow, I think that way now too, or I live that way.
I'm laughing because there were times where I would go to like the pharmacy to go pick up his medication. He would do this every single time, and I think he really placed this on me, where just the connection with people. He would get up to the window, and instead of just grabbing the medication and going about, he would have a conversation with them. He'd grab the bag and he'd be like, "How's your day going?" And he just wanted to make sure that person knew that he was thinking of them. But he also made them smile. So I, as a young child, sometimes you don't really pay attention to that. But because I was with him so often, he was consistent with it. And so I started applying that to my life too. And I know it feels good to other people to feel that they feel appreciated, but I feel good too, knowing that just a small conversation with somebody can brighten somebody's day.
Hey, that's super good. My dad used to do that as well. We'd be going through like a drive-through, we'd get an ice cream cone, whatever, and the guy at the window is like getting like loved on. You know what I'm saying? He's getting chatted.
It was never a regular just grab and go.
And I honestly, it's funny. I do that, and my kids do that now too. It's just something like to take notice of someone to. Obviously respect their boundaries. Sometimes you start to chat somebody up and they want to be left alone. You go ahead and do that. But I remember when we started the church, I've told the story, I worked the front desk at the gym. And to a lot of people, that person's pretty invisible, right? You come in, you scan your ticket and you go in, or card, and you go in to work out. There was a guy, I was actually at a high school football game. I had memorized his name and I had been typing him in for a year. I see him at a football game and I called him by name and I walked over and he looked at me like, "Who the heck are you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm the guy from the front desk." And he was like, "I'm not kidding." He goes, "Oh," he's like, "I've never even looked at you." No, I swear. I was like, "Oh, yeah, none taken, dude."
Right.
I was like, okay. But like, honestly, like that job even reinforced that even more because so many times, you have people and we're just, whatever, we're just having a transaction or we're just moving past. And so that lesson, was more than just, chat up the person who may be serving you or whatever. It's about putting value on every life. I mean, that's a deep, deep lesson.
Yep.
And so like subconsciously you see him doing something that not everybody does. But that's really powerful. You were getting ready to say something.
Well, I was about to tell another story about her grandfather. While she was here in Columbus, I was up in Cleveland, so we used to always kind of get together here and there. And It's one of the stories that he told me that, well, it wasn't a story. It was really a life lesson, obviously. He pulled me aside. He was like, you know what? I think we were probably engaged by this time. He pulled me aside and talked about him and his wife. And I mean, they were married for how long?
62. They were together. Yeah.
62 years, probably
Yeah,
40-something years. Say they were married. But he pulled me aside and he was like, you know what? When we get into arguments, he said that there is one thing that I always did that kept us going. He said that I would tell her that you win this one, and he would pull away and just wouldn't, he wouldn't keep egging it on. Whereas me, I just know who I am. I always want to win. I mean, just competitor. If he, looking back at that, if he hadn't said anything, I probably would be, every argument we had, probably keep going on until I prove the point. But it's funny, even to this day, and he's been gone for quite some time now, and that one conversation stuck out to me still to this day.
Win some, you lose some.
Win some, you lose some, but he literally said that. Now he may have probably kept this internally about him saying that he would he let her win this one, but he just backed off and just walked out or whatever he did. He just let her win.
Well, he counted the cost, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like you can agree to disagree, or you can go, look, I might even think I'm right, whatever.
Right.
But if I get caught up in fighting this person, at what cost?
Right.
And is it worth it? And how sure am I that I'm right? I mean, I have the type of person, I always think I'm right.
Right.
I mean, I think all my opinions are pretty darn solid, and it's like, but how many times in your life as you get older, you look back, you're like, man, I did not know what I was talking about.
Right.
And, it's, to then go like, well, I feel just as confident today as I did the other thing I was wrong. Maybe, I'm going to step back and not make a mountain out of this molehill.
Right.
And in marriage, that's critical. That's
Yeah.
huge. Like,
Yeah.
really picking your battles. Like, what is this worth it? And to glean from the wisdom of someone who's been there.
Yeah.
And that was good of you, smart of you to take note of that
Right.
and then internalize it and go, okay, how does this apply to me?
Right.
But yeah, I think our grandparents, he knows how close I am with my family on my mother and father's side. My grandparents, at least for me, my grandmother, my father's mother, is the last one living. But all of them really instilled something, at least speaking for me, out of all of my cousins, really instilled something in me. I'm a heavy observer of a lot of things. I've been like that since a very young lady. My grandmother, she's one of those where I'm like very extrovert. She took care, and she was a nurse. She took care of a lot of people. So I think all of these principles, and even my grandmother on my mother's side, my great-grandmother was a nurse. So all of those principles instilling in me to care for people, to intentionally listen and observe people for who they are, and embrace it, has really helped me and helped me be patient with my husband as well. I think the nurse part really instilled in me to be patient.
I'm pretty much perfect almost. Though.
Oh my gosh!
I said
Y'all getting
almost.
this right?
Almost.
It's hard to improve on that,
Excellent.
when you're already a
Right.
10. Like, what's next?
Oh,
An 11?
gosh, yes.
I mean, I don't know if that's who are some other people like maybe outside of family, like who are some other influences? I mean, we don't have to take a ton of time with it, but are there people that give them their flowers or kind of connect the dots of things that they've done that you carry on?
Oh yeah, that's hands down for me is my mom. My mom and I, obviously, it was me and her until she got married to my stepdad. I think when I was 12 or 13. But man, we went through a lot. Saw her go through a lot, just as a single mom, and I never was a fighter. As far as physical fighter growing up, I was always a lover. But it was, as far as fighting though, this was a different type of fighting that I see and saw her do every day, day in, day out. a single mom raising me, and sometimes we didn't know as far as food wise, and just how I was gonna get picked up from school while she worked the second shift. Somebody had to pick me up. Thank God for my godmother, who helped out a lot in that. But it was just seeing certain things that she had to go through. That of course, like you said, giving her flowers now. It was a lot, and I take those hard times, when you're going through them as a kid, especially, as long as you had other friends, it was kind of in a similar situation. It was like it was a norm, So you kind of looked at it as it was just a way of life. This is fun. Let's go outside and play. But now that I'm older and I look back at it, and I'm looking like, how in the world did she do it?
Keep showing up, stay consistent.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And it's like tough. She didn't have a car, we had to go catch the bus, and we had to walk to certain areas to catch the bus, laundromat, we didn't have, it's just things like that you don't look at.
You take for granted.
Yeah. Exactly right. And so looking back at that and seeing how she overcame that, and going to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
Pentecostal, man. You go in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Afternoon. You
At
go in the
night.
morning for 4 hours.
A whole new teaching series at night.
Them 3 services that we have now, that was one service for us. All them hours. That was one service. You just getting out there. You got to come back at night. So
And then a revival.
Woo, revival. Don't tell me. All week. So you get out at 12.
You bring up a good point, man. It's that's definitely something I learned from my parents as well. Is their consistency, and like I'm more by nature. Like I talked about in track, I was a sprinter.
Right.
But that's my nature. Sprint. I see an idea, I want to sprint. I see something, I want to sprint. And my dad ran a marathon, and it's his personality. He's a plodder. He can plod. And so often, like I've had to kind of draw on that, like because there's projects and things you take on, whether it's parenting or even like a lot of the stuff we're doing with the church. It's not a sprint. You gotta keep putting one foot in front of the other. You got to take a sustainable pace. Right. You got to keep showing up. Don't tap out at mile marker 17. You got to keep going, and that was learned. That was not natural for me. Yep. I was like, start, quit, and again, that's the nurture that thank God he brought into my life, and like you said about your mother, that's huge. I think it's important, like, and it's a challenge to look around at the people like that raised us, and especially people who we honor and go, hey, let me kind of strip this down to what are the principles, and how do I contextualize that to my day, right? So I imagine like taking your grandfather, or some of again my ancestors, whatever, bringing them into this day, and it's like, what would they say or what would they do, right? And it's hard to say because we know them in their context, and so we know, for example, they may walk into things we do and be very confused by it, right? But if they were our peers, right, if they were born the same time we were, they would see things differently and contextualize. I was reading. I'm going to share some of this in this weekend. But I was in Atlanta, and I went to Ebenezer Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. was buried, and his father was the pastor, and then he served with his father. And so I went in there, and they're playing a loop of Martin Luther King's sermons. So I was sitting there kind of listening, and then a security guard came in. We started having a conversation, and the security guard is basically a historian as well. And so he was telling me about Martin Luther King Sr., okay? And then Alberta King, which was Martin Luther King's mom. So I didn't know this, but Martin Luther King's mom was murdered on the organ at Ebenezer 8 years, I think, after Martin Luther King was assassinated. Oh, wow. And so I was sitting there, and I was thinking like about Martin Luther King Sr. I went in there thinking about Martin Luther King Jr., but I left leaving thinking about Martin Luther King Sr. So I looked up his life, and really interesting thing. So he was born Michael King was his name, and Martin Luther King Jr. was born in 1929, and he was named Michael King. So he named him Michael originally. Martin Luther King Sr. goes over to Germany for like this Baptist convention type global event. And this is like kind of the front end of the rise of Nazism. That was starting to kick up. So they were talking about that. But he went and was really inspired by the life of Martin Luther, right? So Martin Luther, who, 95 Theses, nails him on the wall of the Catholic Church, takes a stand for what he believes. And it was tremendously costly. Like, I mean, you want to talk about going from having a bunch of friends to being a pariah. You want to talk about disrupting things people hold sacred, okay? And so essentially he drew strength from that. Comes home and changes his name to Martin Luther King Sr. and changes his son's name to Martin Luther King Jr. and essentially said, we are going to, in our day, in our world, contextualize. I had no idea until I went back and read that. And I thought, man, like what an example, but also you got to kind of take, that's what really Hebrews 11 is. It's the spirit of people like Moses and Abraham and our parents and our grandparents and go, what are the things that we take? And then we look in our world and we go, I'm not going to duplicate exactly what we did or what they did, but I'm going to take their attitude. I'm going to take their mindset and these important transcendent things, and I'm going to bring it into my world. And I'm going to begin living that way, right? I'm going to carry it on. And so knowing what things we are okay to amend and to change, and then what things do we need to cling to and defend.
That's good.
And that is always a tension, right? It's not always a clear answer. You got to kind of sit with that, like, because tradition in many ways feels like this tradition by itself honors them. They would have loved this. And we carry this on, but yet sometimes those things can be unnecessary baggage that we carry with us, right? It's okay to change it. And so I feel like that's an important conversation to continue to like think through, like what are those things? And it's okay to, even have that conversation and to wrestle with those things. Why don't you guys, what are your thoughts like as you look at like your life and you're going, I want to honor obviously the Abrahams and the Sarahs, but also like our parents and grandparents in our lives. How do you kind of wrestle through those decisions? And are there things specifically that you go, hey, here's something that kind of represents the spirit of, the attitude of my forefathers who made an impact on me, and how I'm carrying that out in my life, in my career, in my family, and just being a human being. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it goes back to what I said earlier when we had our first talk, instilling the principles in our children that we were brought up on. But you made that great point, some of the things can be applied, but it's how you use them in that now generation. But I honestly think about my mother would say, Crystal, I can't wait until you become a parent so you can understand what I mean. And it holds so true, because now that we are parents, I think about this quite often, that my kids have no idea of the things that we sacrifice, that we've had to do. Some of the principles that we've taken, what we've been brought up on, that we use to help raise our children, but some of the things that we've had to change just to bring our children up, that our children, they're very young, that they don't even know about, that they wouldn't even understand right now, that we do to raise them until they get older, that we have those sit downs and say, the reason that this happened was because of this or whatnot. I think about that quite often. And then I think about what my mom said, until you become a parent, you won't truly understand, why I'm doing this. And I'm a parent now and I totally get it. But just those those principles, those values, trying to use those in this now generation where we're parents, and applying that and hoping that as they grow older that they're able to use it in some unique way that will uphold their character, their personality too, as they go through their own life. So that's what I think about.
Again, going back to my mom, and obviously her mental toughness, spiritual toughness. That lady's a fighter, and to this day she's still fighting. And so looking at how she was, fighting for not only her but for myself and our well-being, translate over to today for me. There's some things that Crystal and I are going through, that we're fighting some stuff, not in our relationship wise, but just some things that life, I would just say life lessons and life things that are happening right now that as the man of the house, as the man of the house, the leader of the house, I guess. If I wasn't tough, I mean, it would be bad, and there are some days that you kind of sit back and just say, like, you know what? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to us? But again, it's only like a quick second in the grand scheme of things because of my will and desire to just keep fighting. Yeah. And that's really not only a testament to my mom, but looking at our faith, because I'm telling you, I was just thinking about this today. I'm like, if it wasn't for our faith and our belief in God, I just don't understand how people in our situation could come out of this. Mm-hmm. And I can see how there's people are in depression, there's people that are commit suicide because, if you sit in this and you feel like you don't have any hope,
right?
You don't know where to turn to. You don't have any of those friends that that you thought you had. I can see where people just are like in the wilderness, like, okay, where do I go? How do I do? And I'm telling you, I mean, and I'm not just saying this because I'm in church, I'm with you, but I mean, Crystal can attest to this. It's like every day, I wake up and I'm praying and I'm getting in the word, I'm getting some kind of message that's in me, and I go from one message to another message because in that quiet time, it can be dangerous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can sit there and you can sit in it, or you can sit there and scroll through your social media and look at other people and how they're prospering and how they're doing this, and that. I mean, it's dangerous. So in that time, I am aware of this. And again, I give this all credit to my mom and how she just kept me rooted in the word, in church, and just in that atmosphere, because that's my default. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I didn't have that growing up, God only knows what I would have defaulted to. My default is like, hey, it's I got to get in this word. I know that's the answer. It's in there somewhere, and every time I do it, it's like it gives me that much more energy and that much more encouragement.
And I think that's why we observe, because we're going through, and it's so important where our attention goes. Because just in the devotional I was reading this morning, our attention, what we draw our attention to, shapes us. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to draw the attention where it's going to lead us off the track that the Lord has called us. Mm-hmm. But I think, a lot of people who may be listening right now are like, I don't have that. I don't have that support. I don't have, a spouse to help support me or whatnot. But as a body of Christ, we are so personable. That's where we love community and relationships, wherever we can help, small or big. That's where we want to be able to connect with other people who may be going through it, and just be real and have these real talks too. So whatever we were brought up on, our values, our toughness, whatever you want to call it, we can help in some way with somebody else going through it too. So
that's really good. I was was thinking as you were talking, Mo, about hopelessness. It's like everything that flows out of hopelessness is a problem, right? Like it would be what would flow out of hopelessness. If you look at the spectrum, it might be, I feel hopeless, so I'll harm myself. I feel hopeless, so what's the point of living tomorrow if I have no hope for tomorrow? Right. Also, what flows out of hopelessness is harming others, right? Playing fast and reckless. Like, why would I not take this ridiculous risk, or why would I not, hurt this other person? Because again, what consequence am I afraid of? Because I don't have any hope anyway. And so when you think about ultimately what we have in Christ, that that His mercies are new every morning, that we're in Christ, we're a new creation, that things die and He brings things back to life. He resurrects, or he brings new life, and it's tremendously important. I was also thinking, as you were talking about, faithfulness, and how as a parent, we're always kind of nitpicking ourselves, right? There's a tendency to go like, man, especially you have like an epic parent or grandparent, right? Like someone like your grandfather, you're like, am I like as epic as they are, like, or like your mom, right? And all these things. And like, this is really worth talking about, that, what you mentioned about her was that she was steadfast and faithful. And so it's right. Hope and faith in God should lead us to faithfulness. And often we think of faith as a means to an end instead of an end in and of itself. So, hey, if I have faith in God, even like if you take Hebrews 11:6, that says without faith, it's impossible to please God. Okay, so there would be an end, right? My faith pleases God. I want to please God. But then it says, he who comes to God must believe that He exists, or that He is, and that He rewards those who diligently seek Him. Yeah. So then you go, oh, okay, faith then leads to rewards. And so often it's like, okay, I want this dream, I want this person, I want this, whatever, right? Fill in the blank. And faith will be the means to get me that thing. Instead of seeing faith as an end by itself, right? Yep. And so, and faithfulness to be a win by itself. And so you look at your mom, right? She could have throughout her life gone, wow, I wish I could have bought him more things. I wish I could have had a better standard of living. I wish I could have been the one to pick him up. I wish I could have had a car. I wish I could have this. If I was a better mom, I would. And yet here you are saying, hey, of the cloud of witnesses, the one who most profoundly impacted me was the faithful one. The one that took the hand she was dealt, played it to the best that she could, had faith in God, and was faithful. And I think like we don't tend to consider that a win. We don't consider that like, we just think, well, yeah, of course. I mean, no, that's big. Like you showed up. You know what I mean? You kept fighting through. You took the hand, whether it was a single parent or, you know what? We argued it out. It wasn't pretty. I don't feel too good about it, but we didn't leave one another. We're still here. We're still fighting. We're still showing up for our family. We're still showing up for each other, and I think faithfulness doesn't get its flowers. Right. I think faithfulness doesn't get the credit it deserves of just like, because we think faithfulness, whatever, that's just permission to play. No, that sometimes that's like, I talked Sunday about when I boxed, when I did the boxing match. And one of the lessons the guy taught me was, he said, hey man, you can grab and hold. But I was like, what? No, like I hate that. Like you watch boxers and one dude keeps grabbing and you're like, come on, man. Like, he's like, no, man. He's like, that's part of boxing, dude. He's like, you grab and hold, you're catching your breath. Like you're getting your head back. You're getting him tired. Because if, a lot of times those guys will try to shrug you off and so he's like, some rounds, you're getting got. You need to just grab and hold, right? And so I did, dude. There were a couple times I was getting a flurry, and I was like, But like, what is that faithfulness? Like, I'm gonna survive this round. I mean, this isn't one I'm gonna get a bunch of points. This isn't one that I'm gonna break the world record. What I'm gonna do today, I'm going to make it through today. We're going to stay married today. We're going to, we're going to work our way through this, and we're going to be steadfast, and we're going to plod, and we're going to be faithful. And that is a win. It doesn't always feel like a win. It feels like I was holding on for dear life. But that's what your mom did. That's what again, that's what many did along the way. And there's a time for that. And there's a time to score points and throw haymakers, but there's a time to grab and hold.
Right.
And so,
that's
you know,
so good.
man, I just appreciate you guys. And I just want to encourage, man, people, whether you go to our church or another church, don't see church as a building. Don't just see church as an event. You know, I go to church. Do you go to church on Sunday? Well, I mean, our building is here, 817. We have a service at 10:30 and
12.
noon.
We got you.
You know, thank you. Yeah, I just show up. It all runs together for me.
Right.
I got to tell you, when you do multiple services, there are times I'll be in that third service. I'll be like, did I already say this? When we did 4, we used to do 4. And in the 4th one, no, this is true. I had a lady come up. She's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm all right. She goes, you were slurring your words. I'm not kidding. I was like, I was?
Right.
She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, we need to go back to 3 services. I'm slurring my words in the
Right.
4th. But anyway, people think of it as an event sometimes. They think of it as a building. The church is the community. It's, you know, and you guys are a big part of that. I appreciate it. And I want to invite, you know, whether, again, if it's our church or some other church, like find a body of believers, people to walk through stuff, people to bounce ideas off of, people that you can support when they're going through something, and people that can support you when you're going through something. And guys, thank you. Thank you for bringing your life here and being my friend and for
Thank you
sharing
having
your
us.
story.
Yeah, we
thanks for having
appreciate
us.
it.
All right, man. God bless.